Harrison Thorne's furious scream tears through the silence of the 47th floor, louder than the Chicago blizzard raging outside the glass walls. $3 million a minute. We are bleeding $3 million every single minute, and you people are telling me to wait for a system reboot? Harrison slams his hand onto the mahogany conference table, sending a tremor through the room that rattles the cold coffee cups. It is 2:45 a.m. on Christmas Eve. While the rest of Chicago sleeps under a blanket of white snow, the war room of Thorne Capital is a suffocating oven of panic. 30 of the brightest financial minds in the country sit slumped in their chairs, their ties loosened, their faces illuminated by the harsh crimson glow of the main display. The giant screen shows a graph plunging straight down like a falling knife. The algorithm named Onyx, the pride of Thorne's empire, has gone rogue. In the corner of the room, invisible to the desperate executives, a cleaning cart squeaks softly. Nia Brooks pushes it forward with her head down. She adjusts the heavy frame of her glasses, which keeps sliding down her nose in the humid tension of the room. She is wearing a gray uniform that is 2 sizes too big, the name tag on her chest reading Martha. Nia touches the small, worn photo of her mother, taped discreetly to the handle of her mop bucket. Martha is currently lying in a hospital bed 10 miles away, waiting for a surgery that requires a deposit Nia doesn't have. That is why Nia is here tonight, working her mother's shift, swallowing her pride to keep the insurance active. The volatility index is inverting. The chief technology officer stammers, wiping sweat from his forehead. The code thinks the market is stabilizing, so it's doubling down on leverage. But the market isn't stabilizing, sir. It's crashing. Then turn it off. Harrison roars, his face turning a dangerous shade of purple. We can't. The kill switch is encrypted in the blockchain sequence. It takes 30 minutes to override. Nia moves silently around the perimeter, collecting trash. She knows she should keep her eyes on the floor, but the magnetic pull of the data is too strong. She glances up at the main screen. The numbers cascading down the monitor aren't just random noise to her. They are a language she speaks fluently. Her heart skips a beat. She recognizes the structural framework of the code. She wrote the core kernel of this very system 5 years ago, back when she was an unpaid intern sitting in a windowless basement, desperate for a permanent job that never came. She sees the error instantly. It isn't a complex server failure. It is a simple, catastrophic notation error in the math she designed. It's reading the volatility backward, Nia whispers to herself, her hands tightening around a trash bag. No one hears her. The shouting match between Harrison and his advisors continues. Nia looks at the clock. Every second that passes, another retirement fund is wiped out. She thinks of her mother's pension. She thinks of the thousands of people who will wake up on Christmas morning to find their life savings gone because of a tycoon's arrogance. Nia cannot stay silent. The burden of knowledge is too heavy. She steps away from her cart, her voice trembling but clear. Excuse me, sir. It's not the server. Your eigenvalue decimal point is misplaced. The room goes dead silent. The only sound is the hum of the cooling fans and the howl of the wind outside. 30 heads turn in unison to look at the cleaning lady standing by the trash can. Harrison Thorne slowly turns around. His eyes, bloodshot and wild with stress, lock onto Nia. He marches over, his expensive Italian shoes clicking menacingly on the marble floor until he is towering over her. Who gave a trash collector permission to speak in my war room? Get out. Harrison Thorne's command explodes from his chest, hitting Nia with such physical force that she actually stumbles backward. Her hip collides painfully with the metal rim of her cleaning cart, sending dirty water sloshing over the side. The gray liquid splashes onto the pristine Italian marble floor, a dark stain spreading like the panic in the room. Thorne steps closer, invading her personal space, his expensive cologne mixing with the stale scent of nervous sweat and spilled espresso. He looks down at her with a sneer that cuts deeper than the winter wind howling outside the tower. To him, she is not a person. She is an obstruction, a glitch in his perfect world that needs to be deleted. You people are all the same, Thorne spits, his voice dripping with condescension. You're just like your mother, Martha. Born to scrub floors and clean up after your betters, yet somehow you delude yourselves into thinking you deserve a seat at the table. Do not pretend to be smart, girl. just because you put on a pair of glasses and learned a few big words. The mention of her mother makes Nia's blood run hot. Martha Brooks spent 20 years making sure this building sparkled, destroying her back and her knees for minimum wage, only to be dismissed as a piece of machinery. Nia straightens her spine. The fear of authority is still there, trembling in her hands, but the anger born of injustice is stronger. She pushes her glasses up her nose and meets the billionaire's gaze. "Mr. Thorne, I have a master's degree in applied mathematics from the University of Chicago," Nia says, her voice gaining steel despite the shaking of her knees. "I know this system because I helped build its foundation as an intern you ignored. Your algorithm is currently interpreting market stability as high-risk volatility. It is creating a feedback loop. If you do not invert the parameter in the next 8 minutes, you will lose $500 million. The system will cannibalize itself." Thorne throws his head back and laughs, a harsh barking sound that lacks any humor. He looks around the room, inviting his executives to join in the mockery. "Did you hear that? The janitor has a diagnosis. Maybe we should ask the window washer for investment advice next." He turns sharply to the security guard stationed by the door. "Marcus, get in here." Marcus Williams, a 65-year-old man with kind eyes and a weary posture, steps forward. He looks from the furious billionaire to the young woman he has known since she was a child waiting for her mom in the lobby. He sees the intelligence in Nia's eyes, but he also sees the power in Thorne's fist. "Mr. Thorne," Marcus starts, his voice low and pleading. "She didn't mean any harm, sir. She's just trying to. I don't pay you to think, Marcus. I pay you to take out the trash." Thorne points a shaking finger at the bronze elevator doors. "Remove her for trespassing and disturbing the peace. And if I see her face in this building again, you're fired too. Do you hear me? Fired." Nia sees the conflict in Marcus's eyes. She knows his wife needs insulin. She knows he cannot lose this job. She nods slightly to him, a silent signal that it's okay to let go. Marcus sighs, muttering a quiet, "I'm sorry, Nia," as he firmly grips her arm to lead her away from the chaos. But before they can take 2 steps toward the exit, a deafening, high-pitched screech erupts from the central console. It sounds like a heart monitor flatlining, but amplified 1,000 times. The main screen flashes violently. The red line on the graph plunges past the bottom axis, entering freefall. Total loss, $450 million. The algorithm has begun dumping the company's core blue-chip stocks at fire sale prices. The room erupts into fresh screams. Thorne's face drains of all color, leaving him looking like a wax statue. He grips the edge of the mahogany conference table, his knuckles white, his breath coming in shallow gasps. From the back of the room, Professor Chen, the company's senior advisor who had been frantically checking the code on his laptop, jumps to his feet. His eyes are wide with horror as he points a trembling finger at the main screen. "My God, Harrison!" Chen shouts, his voice cracking over the blaring alarm. "The cleaning girl is right. The algorithm is eating itself." The war room freezes. The chaotic shouting dies instantly, strangled by the sheer magnitude of Professor Chen's realization. The only sounds left in the cavernous room are the high-pitched whine of the overheating server fans and the ragged, terrified breathing of Harrison Thorne. At the threshold of the bronze doors, Marcus's grip on Nia's arm loosens. He looks at the young woman he has protected since she was a skinny girl doing homework in the lobby while her mother mopped floors. He sees something in her eyes that he hasn't seen in years, not fear, not resignation, but a cold, burning fire. Nia looks down at her hands. They are rough, calloused from years of handling bleach and steel wool. But beneath the dry skin, the muscles remember a different kind of work. She thinks of her mother, Martha, lying in a sterile hospital room, hooked up to machines that beep with the rhythm of a fading life. She thinks of the surgery that costs more than 10 years of her salary. If Thorne Capital collapses tonight, the insurance policy collapses with it. Her mother dies. It is that simple. Nia pulls her arm away from Marcus. It is a gentle but firm motion. "I can't leave, Marcus," she whispers, her voice trembling with the weight of the decision. "If I walk out that door, everyone loses. You, me, them, everyone." She turns around. The executives part like the Red Sea as the woman in the oversized gray uniform walks back toward the center of the room. She doesn't look at the floor anymore. She looks straight at Harrison Thorne, who is clinging to the edge of the table as if it were a life raft in a hurricane. "Mr. Thorne," Nia says, her voice projecting clearly across the room, carrying an authority that seems impossible for her station. "I didn't just read about this system in a textbook. I wrote the core kernel for Onyx 5 years ago. I was the unpaid intern in the basement archives. I'm the one who patched the liquidity protocol when your lead engineers were on vacation in the Hamptons. You never learned my name because you never looked down far enough to see it." Thorne stares at her, his mouth opening and closing, words failing him for the first time in his life. The arrogance is cracking, revealing the terrified old man beneath. You were the intern?" he stammers, his eyes darting between her and the screen, which now shows a loss of $475 million. "I can fix it," Nia interrupts, stepping closer until she is standing directly in front of the billionaire. The smell of his fear is acrid and sharp. "I need 10 seconds. 10 seconds to reverse the polarity of the volatility index. Or you can stand here and watch your empire burn to ash. It is your choice, Harrison." She uses his first name. A collective gasp ripples through the room. Thorne looks at the screen. The red numbers are blurring into a waterfall of destruction. He looks at his team of Ivy League analysts, who are staring at their shoes, defeated. Then he looks at Nia, at her cheap glasses, her frayed uniform, her defiant chin. He hates needing her. It burns him more than the lost money. But the survival instinct is stronger than pride. "If you touch that keyboard and the number goes down by even 1 more cent," Thorne hisses, leaning in so close that spittle lands on her cheek, "I will not just fire you. I will bury you. I will make sure you spend the rest of your life in a federal prison for corporate sabotage." "Get out of the chair," Nia says simply. Thorne hesitates for a split second, then steps aside. Nia sits in the CEO's chair. The leather is warm and smells of expensive polish. It feels alien against her synthetic uniform. She places her hands on the mechanical keyboard. Compared to the heavy mops and scrub brushes she wields every night, the keys feel as light as air. She closes her eyes for a heartbeat, blocking out the hostile stares, the blinking red lights, the smell of panic. She enters the zone, that quiet white room in her mind where numbers dance and logic reigns supreme. Open command line. Bypass GUI. Her fingers begin to move. They don't just type, they perform a symphony. Click, clack, click, clack. The sound is rhythmic, precise, faster than anyone in the room can follow. She doesn't need to look at the reference manual. The code is etched into her memory like the lines on her mother's face. Line 402, variable, volatility. Status, positive feedback loop. Action, invert. She types the patch code. It is elegant, simple, a surgical strike against the chaos. "What is she doing?" someone whispers. "She's rewriting the kernel live," Professor Chin whispers back, his voice filled with, "She's not patching it. She's evolving it." Nia ignores them. She reaches the final line. Her finger hovers over the enter key. This is it. 10 seconds. She presses the key. The sound echoes like a gunshot in the silent room. For a terrifying moment, nothing happens. The screen flickers black. The fans spin down. The room plunges into a heavy, suffocating darkness. Thorne lets out a strangled cry, lunging forward as if to strangle her. "You killed it. You killed the..." Beep. The main screen roars back to life. But the color has changed. The angry, violent red is gone. In its place is a soothing, steady emerald green. The downward spike on the graph hits a hard floor, flattens for a microsecond, and then, miraculously, begins to tick upward. System stabilized. Current loss, $0. Recovery mode active. Nia takes her hands off the keyboard. Her fingers are shaking now. She pushes the heavy leather chair back and stands up, adjusting her glasses. She turns to face Harrison Thorne, who is staring at the green screen with his jaw unhinged, looking like a man who has just seen a ghost. "Your bleeding has stopped, Mr. Thorne," Nia says quietly, wiping her hands on her apron. "Now, about that trespassing charge." The relief in the war room is palpable, a physical wave of exhausted joy that washes over the 30 executives. For the first time in an hour, men loosen their ties and lean back in their chairs. A few junior analysts high-five silently. Even Harrison Thorne, the tyrant of the tower, lets out a long, shuddering breath, his shoulders sagging as the crushing weight of bankruptcy lifts from his back. He looks at the green screen, then at Nia, his expression a complicated mix of awe, embarrassment, and lingering suspicion. You. Thorne starts, wiping a bead of sweat from his upper lip. You actually fixed it. Don't celebrate yet, Nia says. Her voice is not triumphant. It is cold, sharp, and cuts through the room's relief like a serrated knife. Thorne frowns, his momentary gratitude evaporating. What do you mean? The numbers are green. The bleeding has stopped. The bleeding has stopped because I applied a tourniquet. Nia replies, her fingers flying back to the keyboard, typing with a renewed, frantic intensity. But I haven't removed the bullet. And unless we find a shooter, this system is going to bleed out again inexactly. She glances at a line of code scrolling rapidly on the secondary monitor. 4 minutes. The celebratory atmosphere dies instantly. The silence returns, heavier and darker than before. Explain, Thorne commands, stepping closer to the desk, hovering over her shoulder. Nia points to a block of code hidden deep within the system logs, a section that no regular analyst would think to check. The decimal point error wasn't a typo, Mr. Thorne. It was too precise. It was placed exactly where it would cause the most damage to your liquidity while remaining invisible to standard diagnostic tools. That wasn't a bug. It was a Trojan horse. Impossible, Professor Chin interjects, shaking his head. The Onyx system is air-gapped. No outside hacker could penetrate our firewall. It wasn't an outside hacker, Nia says quietly. She types a command. Trace _. The command came from inside the building. Someone with level 5 administrative clearance manually disabled the safety protocols at 1 a.m. They didn't just want the system to fail. They rigged it to short-sell your own stock automatically. Whoever did this is betting against you. They stand to make $1 billion if Thorne Capital goes bankrupt tonight. Thorne's face turns the color of ash. A traitor? In this room. He spins around, eyeing his 30 executives with paranoia. Who? Which one of you did it? It wasn't them, Nia says. The trace is complete. A blinking cursor hovers over a single user ID on the giant screen. The digital fingerprint is unmistakable. The room collectively gasps. The ID is not a string of random numbers. It is a name. User, admin_J. Thorne location, remote_access, Cayman Islands. Harrison Thorne stares at the screen. He blinks once, twice, as if trying to clear a hallucination. J. Thorne, he whispers, his voice trembling so much it is barely audible. Julian. Nia turns in the chair to face him. Your son has been systematically shorting your stock for 3 months, Mr. Thorne. He triggered the crash tonight to cash out his positions. He's destroying your legacy for an insurance payout. For a long, agonizing moment, the billionaire stands frozen. His mind fractures. This is the son he groomed, the boy he sent to the best boarding schools, the heir he defended against every board member who called him lazy and entitled. The idea that his own flesh and blood would stick a knife in his back is a truth too large, too painful to accept. So, like a wounded animal, Harrison Thorne lashes out. He rejects the truth. He chooses denial. And he targets the only person in the room he can afford to hurt. You lie. Thorne screams, his voice cracking into a shriek of denial. He lunges forward and physically shoves Nia, knocking her shoulder hard. The chair spins, and Nia grabs the desk to steady herself. Mr. Thorne, the logs are right, H. You hacked his account. Thorne roars, spit flying from his lips, his eyes wild with madness. That's what this is. A setup. You planted that error, didn't you? You came in here with your sad story about your sick mother, played the hero, and now you're trying to frame my son to extort money from me. It's a blackmail scheme. Harrison, stop. Professor Chin yells, stepping forward. Look at the data. It's Julian. We've all suspected he was unstable. Shut up. Thorne turns on his old friend. My son is a Thorne. A Thorne does not betray his own family. This trash collector is a criminal mastermind. Thorne turns to Marcus, his face twisted into a mask of pure hatred. Marcus, I told you to get her out. Arrest her. She is hacking our servers. She is trying to steal company property. Sir, please, Marcus begs, his hands shaking as he reaches for his belt. She just saved us. Do it or I will destroy your life. Thorne screams, slamming his fist on the table. I will make sure you never work again. I will cut your pension. I will ruin you. Nia looks at Marcus. She sees the terror in the old man's eyes. He is trapped, just like she is. Trapped by poverty, by the need to survive, by the whims of a man who would burn the world rather than admit he raised a monster. Slowly, Nia stands up. She doesn't fight. She extends her wrists. It's okay, Marcus, she says softly, her voice the calmest thing in the room. Do your job. With tears streaming down his weathered cheeks, Marcus unclips the handcuffs from his belt. The metallic click-click of the cuffs locking around Nia's wrists echoes like a gunshot in the silent room. Get her out of my sight. Thorne sneers, turning his back on her to stare at the screen, desperate to find a way to clear his son's name. I'll fix this myself. But the moment Nia is pulled away from the keyboard, the screen flickers. The tourniquet she applied was temporary. It needed a final line of code to lock out the intruder. Without Nia there to type it, the virus senses the opening. The green screen flashes once, then twice, and then, with a sound like a dying breath, it turns a violent, bloody red. Alert. Admin override detected. Short _ cell protocol reactivated. Estimated time to bankruptcy, 2 minutes. Thorne freezes. He watches as the numbers begin to plummet twice as fast as before. The monster is back, and this time, the only person who knows how to kill it is in handcuffs, being dragged toward the elevator. The cold metal of the handcuffs clicks shut around Nia's wrists. The sound is small, mechanical, yet it echoes through the silent room with the finality of a prison sentence. Nia does not fight. She does not scream or plead. She simply stands there, her hands bound behind her back, looking at Harrison Thorne not with anger, but with a profound, crushing pity. She sees him for what he truly is, not a titan of industry, but a broken father standing in the ruins of his own denial. I tried, Nia whispers, her voice barely audible over the rising alarm. I tried to save you. Marcus, with tears in his eyes, gently pulls her arm. Come on, Nia. Don't make it harder. Let's go. They take 3 steps toward the elevator. BBBRRRZT. The main console screams. The red alert light begins to strobe, bathing the room in a rhythmic, bloody pulse. The tourniquet Nia applied has snapped. The virus, now unchecked, begins to devour the remaining capital with terrifying speed. Loss rate, $10 million/second. Time to insolvency, 90 seconds. It's speeding up. Professor Chen shouts, slamming his laptop shut in frustration. Harrison, look. It's wiping the pension databases. The teachers' fund in Ohio? Gone. The firefighters' fund in Detroit? Gone. It's all going to zero. Thorne stands paralyzed in the center of the room. He is watching his life's work disintegrate. Then his phone rings. It is a cheerful, upbeat ringtone, a stark contrast to the death spiral on the screens. Thorne looks at the caller ID. Julian, mobile. His hand shakes violently as he pulls the phone from his pocket. He swipes the screen, pressing it to his ear with desperate hope. Maybe Nia was wrong. Maybe Julian is calling to say he found the hacker. Maybe his son is calling to save him. Julian. Thorne gasps. Julian, where are you? The system is crashing. We need you here. The voice on the other end is slurred, relaxed, accompanied by the sound of ocean waves and ice clinking in a glass. Dad, relax. Julian's voice draws over the speakerphone, loud enough for the nearby executives to hear. Stop fighting it. Let it burn. Thorne freezes. His world tilts on its axis. What did you say? I said let it burn. Julian laughs, a cruel, empty sound. I shorted the stock this morning, Dad. Leverage 100 to 1. The lower it goes, the richer we get. I already moved my assets to crypto wallets in Dubai. We're set for life. Who cares about the company? It's a dinosaur anyway. You. Thorne can barely breathe. The betrayal hits him harder than a physical bullet. Julian, there are people's lives on this server. Families. Retirees. You are stealing from them. They're losers, Dad. Just like you always said, sheep to be sheared. Don't go soft on me now. Take the insurance money and meet me in the Caymans. I bought us a boat. Click. The line goes dead. Thorne drops the phone. It hits the marble floor and cracks, the screen shattering just like his heart. He looks up. The giant screen shows the carnage. Teachers' Pension Fund. $0 Veterans Medical Trust. $0. He looks at his executives. They are staring at him with horror and disgust. They heard everything. His son is a thief. A monster. And Thorne realizes, with a sickening jolt, that he created that monster. He taught Julian to value profit over people. He taught him that being smart meant being ruthless. Then, Thorne looks at the elevator. Marcus is holding the door open, looking back with a desperate expression. And there stands Nia, the daughter of the woman who cleaned his toilets. The woman he humiliated, insulted, and arrested. She has no reason to help him. She should be laughing at him. She should be happy to see him destroyed. But she isn't laughing. Nia is straining against the handcuffs, her eyes fixed on the screen, her lips moving as she calculates the final seconds of the company's life. Even now, betrayal after betrayal, she is still trying to figure out how to save the strangers whose money is vanishing. She is the only decent person in this entire building, Thorne realizes. Harrison. Professor Chen grabs his arm, shaking him. You have to choose. Right now. Your pride is dead. Do you want to kill your soul too? Something breaks inside Harrison Thorne. The wall of ego he spent 60 years building crumbles into dust. No. Thorne screams. He turns and sprints across the room. He runs like a madman, slipping on the spilled coffee, scrambling to regain his balance. He reaches Marcus and practically tackles the guard. Give me the keys. Thorne yells, clawing at Marcus's belt. Sir. Marcus is stunned. Thorne rips the keys from the belt. His hands are shaking so badly he drops them once, then scrambles to his knees to pick them up. He stands before Nia, breathing heavily, tears streaming down his red face. Thorne chokes on the words. I am sorry. I am so sorry. He jams the key into the handcuffs. Click. The metal rings spring open and fall to the floor with a clatter. Nia rubs her wrists. Deep red welts are forming where the metal bit into her skin. She looks at Thorne. She sees a man who has lost everything that mattered to him, stripped down to his raw humanity. Mr. Thorne, Nia says, her voice urgent but calm. Is Julian truly gone? He is dead to me, Thorne whispers, his voice hollow. Please. Save them. Save the families. Nia nods once. She doesn't waste time on Aldous. She pushes past him and runs back to the main terminal. She slides into the leather chair, her fingers finding the home row keys instantly. The virus has mutated, Nia announces, scanning the cascading code. It locked the root directory. I can't override it without a biometric override from the CEO. She turns to Thorne. I need your hand. Now. The market opens in 60 seconds. Someone shouts from the back. Mr. Thorne. Nia yells, snapping her fingers. I need your fingerprint. If the opening bell rings while this virus is active, the bankruptcy becomes irreversible. Thorne stumbles to the desk. He places his trembling hand on the biometric scanner next to the keyboard. Access granted, CEO Harrison Thorne. Do it, Thorne whispers, closing his eyes. Rewrite it all. Nia does not see the room anymore. The terrified faces of the executives, the sobbing billionaire, the flashing red lights, they all fade into a blur. Her world narrows down to the glowing cursor on the black screen and the rhythmic clack-clack-clack of her fingers on the keys. She is no longer a janitor. She is a maestro conducting a digital orchestra. Market opens in 10 seconds. Professor Chen shouts, counting down like he is watching a rocket launch. 9, 8. Nia's mind moves faster than the clock. She isn't just deleting Julian's virus, she is building a fortress around the system. She types a complex encryption sequence, locking the root directory with a polymorphic key that changes every millisecond. Line 4002, block external IPs. Line 4003, liquidate short positions. Line 4004, Execute protocol. Guardian_angel. 3, 2, 1. Ding. 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 The opening bell of the New York Stock Exchange rings out from the television monitors on the wall. The trading day has begun. For one heart-stopping second, the graph on the main screen continues to plummet. Thorne closes his eyes, bracing for the impact of bankruptcy. A collective groan rises from the room as the loss hits $600 million. But then, Nia hits enter on the final command. The effect is violent and immediate. It's as if an invisible hand has reached out and caught the falling knife. The red line slams into a hard floor. It vibrates for a microsecond, fighting against the momentum of the crash. And then, with the force of a rocket, it shoots vertically upward. Short squeeze triggered. Buy orders. Executed. Recovery rate, 500%. The numbers flip so fast they blur. Negative $600 million becomes negative $300 million. Then zero. Then, in a burst of glorious green, the counter ticks into positive territory. Profit, $50 million. Profit, $120 million. It's going vertical, the CTO whispers, his voice cracking. The system isn't just recovering. It's trapping the short sellers. It's forcing them to buy back at a premium. We're making a fortune. Nia leans back in the leather chair. She takes a deep, shuddering breath. Her hands, which had been steady as stone, finally begin to tremble. She slowly pulls her hands away from the keyboard and looks at Harrison Thorne. Thorne is staring at the screen with his mouth open. He looks like a man who has witnessed a miracle. He turns to Nia, tears streaming freely down his face, washing away the arrogance that had defined him for 40 years. How? Thorne whispers. How did you do that? I didn't just fix the code, Mr. Thorne, Nia says softly, standing up and smoothing her oversized uniform. I redirected the attack. When Julian's algorithm tried to sell, I forced it to buy. Your son just inadvertently bought back the company's debt. She pauses, adjusting her glasses. Oh, and you should probably check your email. I forwarded the server logs to the FBI Cyber Division 5 minutes ago. Thorne blinks. You turned him in? I did what needed to be done to protect the pension funds, Nia replies with quiet dignity. Justice doesn't wait for permission. As if on cue, a breaking news alert flashes on the TV screens. FBI raids home of Julian Thorne in Connecticut. Arrested for securities fraud. Thorne sinks into a chair, burying his face in his hands. He has lost a son, but he has regained his soul. 4 hours later, the blizzard has passed. The morning sun glitters off the snow-covered streets of Chicago, blindingly bright. The lobby of the Pinnacle Tower is packed. Word of the Christmas miracle has leaked, and hundreds of employees, reporters, and camera crews are crowding the atrium. They expect a standard press conference. They expect Harrison Thorne to stand at the podium and boast about his genius. Instead, the elevator doors open, and Harrison Thorne walks out. He looks old or humbled. And walking right beside him, not behind him, is Nia Brooks. She is still wearing her gray janitor's uniform, refusing Thorne's offer to change into a suit. Let them see who saved them, she had said. Thorne steps up to the microphone. The room goes silent. Ladies and gentlemen, Thorne begins, his voice shaking slightly. Last night, this company nearly died. We faced a crisis that would have wiped out the savings of thousands of families. He pauses, looking out at the sea of faces. He spots Marcus, the security guard, standing in the back, smiling proudly. I spent my whole life believing that intelligence looked a certain way, Thorne continues. That it wore a suit. That it had an Ivy League degree. That it looked like me. He turns to Nia. She stands tall, her chin up, looking every bit the warrior she is. I was wrong. I was blind, arrogant, and cruel. I judged a book by its cover, and it almost cost me everything. Then Harrison Thorne does something that makes the entire room gasp. The billionaire steps back from the podium. He smooths his suit jacket. And slowly, deliberately, in front of 30 rolling cameras and 500 employees, he drops to one knee at Nia's feet. Camera flashes explode like fireworks. A stunned murmur ripples through the crowd. A billionaire kneeling before a janitor. It is an image that will be on the cover of every newspaper in America by tomorrow morning. Nia Brooks, Thorne says, his voice amplified by the microphone, loud and clear. I am not worthy to be your boss. You possess a brilliance and a moral compass that I lost decades ago. On behalf of the 2,800 families you saved last night, thank you. Please forgive me. Nia looks down at the man who had ordered her arrest just hours ago. She sees true contrition. She reaches out her rough, hard-working hand, the hand of a cleaner, and helps the billionaire to his feet. Get up, Harrison, she says, loud enough for the microphone to catch. Dignity isn't about kneeling. It's about what we do next. Thorne stands, wiping his eyes. He turns back to the crowd. Effective immediately, I am stepping down as CEO of Thorne Capital. The board has unanimously approved my recommendation for a successor. Someone who understands the code of this company better than anyone. He gestures to Nia. Please welcome your new Chief Technology Officer and Acting CEO, Miss Nia Brooks. The silence holds for one heartbeat. Then Marcus starts clapping. Then Professor Chin. And then the room erupts into a thunderous ovation that shakes the glass walls of the tower. Epilogue. 6 weeks later. The corner office on the 47th floor looks different. The intimidating mahogany desk is gone, replaced by a modern, collaborative workspace covered in monitors. Nia Brooks sits in the ergonomic chair. She is wearing a sharp navy blazer, but on her feet, underneath the desk, she still wears her comfortable walking sneakers. She picks up a pen and signs a check for $50 million. It is the founding grant for the Martha Brooks STEM Initiative, a scholarship fund designed to find hidden geniuses in low-income jobs, janitors, drivers, waitresses, and pay for their education. Her phone buzzes. A video call from Mom. Nia taps the screen. Martha Brooks is sitting up in a hospital bed, looking rosy-cheeked and strong. The surgery was a complete success. Hi, baby. Martha smiles, waving. I saw you on CNN again. They're calling you the Cinderella of Wall Street. Nia laughs, leaning back in her chair. She looks out the window at the Chicago skyline, gleaming in the winter sun. She isn't Cinderella. She didn't need a magic wand or a prince. She just needed a chance. Let them talk, Mom, Nia says, her eyes drifting to the old gray uniform she keeps framed on the wall as a reminder. We have work to do. She hangs up, adjusts her glasses, and turns back to the code. In a world that often values the suit over the soul, Nia and Harrison remind us that brilliance is often hidden in the most unexpected places. True dignity is not found in standing above others, but in having the courage to kneel when we are wrong and the strength to lift others up. So, the next time you pass someone in a uniform, take a moment to look closer because you might just be looking at a hero in disguise.